Hey everybody, good afternoon. Roman Polnar coming to you live here from Pillar 6 College Planning, where, like yesterday and every day before, we try to make college more affordable for families just like yourselves. And if you were watching this yesterday, I introduced you to our P.L.A.N system to get money for college. And I suggested that you go on to 4moneysteps.com so that you can learn from watching those 4 training videos on the main areas where you can find money to pay for college. And so now, as promised, the question that you probably have in your mind is, all right, so now I know where to look for money. The question that I have now is, how do I get it? And in this video, I'm going to share with you the very, very first thing that you need to do before you do anything else in order to start doing the things to get that money. But before I go into that, I have a question. All right. So what do you think is the number one reason that people call me between September and May of every single year? Right? Number one reason. And that is they call looking for money to pay for college. Now, every fall is not a surprise. Students across the country nervously apply to colleges. And their parents, meanwhile, are nervously confronting the reality of having to pay for it. Right? And deep inside, most parents know that they weren't saving enough money all along. But, somehow deep inside, they were hoping that things would just work themselves out in the end, somehow. Well, now that their kids are actually applying to colleges, that hopeful feeling is generally turning to a painful realization. Kind of goes like this. Most parents call them like, holy crap. Forgive me, that's a technical industry term. What are we going to do? Right? Colleges are so much more expensive than we had hoped they would be, and we didn't save enough money. So in a last-ditch effort, they generally call their friends, and in many cases, our name comes up, and I get the call. And that call usually goes something like this. So now the person on the other end says, hey, my name is so-and-so. We were given your name by so-and-so. Hey, my daughter or my son are applying to colleges this fall. We've got, X number of dollars saved, but we realize it's not enough. We're now thinking about filling out the FAFSA, maybe getting some loans. We need to get money. Do you know, how they're going to look at our finances? Are they going to count home equity against us? I heard some colleges will do that. Some colleges don't. What about our mortgage payments? They're so high. But do they look into that? Or do they completely ignore our cost of living? Because I heard that they do. Is it true? But it looks like on paper I should be able to afford college, but I really can't. And so what do you think? Can you help? And, usually after letting them vent for a few minutes, I'll say something like, hello, it's nice to meet you. All right, let's back up. And then I ask them a few questions, and usually within a couple of minutes, we both realize that they don't really understand the financial aid system, nor are they prepared sort of play this college admissions and paying for college game, because they don't know what the process is, because they've been so busy just doing everything that life is throwing at them that they now arrived at this time when there's no more time left, and they realize desperately that they need help in finding money, but they don't know where to start. And so what I want to talk about today is that one place that you absolutely need to do first as your starting point. And here it is. The very first thing you got to do is figure out what is going to be your family's EFC. That stands for expected family contribution. It's the minimum amount of money that colleges and the government is going to expect you to pay for college out of your pocket first before you're considered for any financial assistance. And that EFC number is critical. And it's also critical to have before you submit any financial aid form. Because before you go on record, and certainly long before you start to get the results from colleges and hearing their financial aid offers, you need to know what will be your EFC once you go through the process, because knowing that number is going to give you a lot of very valuable information. I mean, if nothing else, it's going to tell you how much the government and the colleges will expect you to pay out of pocket first. And this way you can decide, Well, first of all, do you have the money saved that they think you should be able to afford to spend or not? That's a separate conversation that I can address later. But the one thing, the second thing, but most important thing that it's going to tell you is, what path are you going to pursue to get money to pay for college? Because here's what's going to happen. You'll model your EFC. And there's an online calculator that I'm going to share with you in just a moment that you could use. But you're going to model your EFC, right? And it's going to give you the number. And it's going to give you sort of one of three things is going to happen. Number one, it's going to give you a low EFC, something like maybe $1,000, right? That's all you're going to be expected to pay for college. So if your EFC is super low, then let's just say you belong to group 1. Now that group needs to look at colleges that will meet 100% of your demonstrated need. Now, keep in mind that not all colleges will give you all of the money that you deserve. Some colleges will only give you half, which really increases the amount that you're going to have to spend out of pocket. So number one group, your goal is then going to be looking at colleges that provide very generous need-based financial aid packages. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if you completed that EFC calculator and it has a super high number, like say $100,000, right? That's super high. There's not a single college in the nation that's going to cost more than that. So effectively, you're in group 3, which means you're not going to qualify for any need-based financial aid. You just don't qualify. So don't spend any time, effort, and money pursuing financial aid strategies because they won't apply. Instead, you're going to need to look at colleges that will give your student merit aid. Merit has nothing to do with financial aid, well, need-based financial aid. It's all about your student and how good of a match that you were able to establish with each of the colleges, and look for colleges that have money to give to students that they really want to attract. That's merit money. Now, what happens if you're in group 2? Now, group 2 is generally the biggest number of people in the country that have their EFC somewhere between super low and super high. They're somewhere in the middle. And unfortunately, group number 2 has the most amount of work that you need to do in order to get money to pay for college, because you're going to need to focus in every one of the 4 areas. There's not a single place where you can go to get all the money that you're going to need to bridge the gap between how much money you've got and the cost of college. And so those 4 areas for category 2 families are going to be, number 1, trying to lower your EFC by as much as you can to qualify for some need-based financial aid. The second place you're going to need to go to is merit-based aid. So again, you want to look at colleges that even have money to give out in merit assistance. Number 3, you're going to need to look at your own resources and figure out, how are you going to pay for college out of pocket to make up that EFC without going broke, or without taking on debt, or without jeopardizing your retirement, right? Or your own personal financial well-being and stability. And then the 4th area that you'll need to focus on is a smart use of debt. Because for most category 2 families, they're going to still need to borrow something. But the question is, how do you borrow in the best way? All right, well, before we get into the details, because I will be talking about that in future videos, the one thing that we want to focus on today is calculating your EFC as a starting point, just so that we have a place to then start making decisions of which one of these 3 paths you should be pointing yourself in. So how do you calculate your EFC? Well, I like the EFC calculator on collegeboard.org, the same organization that brings you the SATs. So you probably are very familiar with this website by now. If you're not, let me share it with you. All right, here we go. Let's go to our trusted friend Google and just type in College Board. And here it is, collegeboard.org. When you get to this page, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a search bar, and put an EFC calculator. Here it is. Or actually one of these 2. Here, expected family contribution calculator. Choose this. answer, after hitting start, some basic questions. When you click next, this is an important page. It's going to ask you which formula that you want to use, federal, institutional, or both. I highly encourage you to just select both from the get-go. What that means is that your EFC is going to be calculated based upon two different formulas. The federal methodology, or the federal formula, is what the FAFSA uses to determine your eligibility for financial aid from the federal government. On the other hand, the institutional methodology is what the CSS profile uses, and about 400 colleges, private colleges, will establish a different EFC for you to determine your eligibility for financial assistance from their own resources, from the college's own resources, not from the government. So depending on which school your kids are going to be applying to, you want to know both the federal and the institutional EFC, because most families will end up applying to colleges that use both of those formulas, and you got to know that number. All right, so let me stop sharing this. There we go. So once you've gone to collegeboard.org, answer the questions. It doesn't go on record. It's a great place to start because you're not sending or submitting your information anywhere. It's just between you and the calculator. And that's going to help you make the next decision, which is which one of the three paths are you going to follow to get money to pay for college. Now, in the next video, I'm going to talk about the next thing that you should do once you have your EFC to decide if you're a Category 1 family, how do you look for colleges that have a lot of need-based financial aid? Or if you're a Category 3, how do you look for merit money? And I'll have a separate segment for Category 2 families because that's where most parents are going to ultimately fall into. It's where, unfortunately, they're between a rock and a hard place where, you know, the government and colleges will see them as being quote unquote wealthy enough sort of to pay the majority of the college. But in reality, a lot of these families are cash constrained and they don't really have the money to pay for college. So I'll teach you how to do that better. But for now, model your EFC. If you missed the videos, go to 4moneysteps.com. That's where I share a lot of the stuff that I just went over, but we go into more depth so that you know where you should be looking for money. And then stay tuned. I'm going to teach you how. So hopefully this has been helpful. If it is, let me know. Click like, share with your friends, share with other folks that have college-bound kids. And if you have any questions or if you want to leave a comment, I welcome your feedback. So let me know what you think of all of these videos that we're bringing to you in the comments below. Until the next time we talk, be well, plan well, and I wish you all the best. Take care.